We're going to do a bit of narrative, a bit of 3D sound, and I'll tell you how it's going to be delivered. It's going to be through binaural stereo to headphones. How many people here have heard that? How many people have heard binaural through headphones? Okay. How many people have a mobile device and earbuds with them? Okay. Hopefully there's some intersection between that group and those who haven't heard, because we're going to turn them on and go to some examples. But prior to that, I'm going to talk a little bit about sound itself. We study sound from many points of view. Some of it's from the physical side of sound. Some of it's from the mental and the cognitive sort of receiver side. One of the wonderful advents during my career of understanding how sound actually is such a part of our being came from this book by Al Bregman, published in 1990. And there's a wonderful description of the complexity of our capacity to hear and appreciate sound that has just a very, very simple story to illustrate with. So this is the game, and you're standing at the side of a lake, and a friend digs a couple little channels off of the lake. These are just narrow channels side by side, and they're connected to the lake. And somewhere up these little narrow channels, he inserts a handkerchief in each one. So here's the lake, and you get these tiny handkerchiefs. And waves that are coming up the channels are going to create motion in these handkerchiefs. You probably see where we're going with this. So you're going to watch the handkerchiefs. And this is the challenge. Just watching the motion of the handkerchiefs, how are you going to know objects in the lake? I mean, the complexity of all that stuff out there creates patterns in the handkerchiefs. And this is the analogy. It's that we have this incredibly wonderfully competent mechanism for sensing our three-dimensional auditory environment, but we do it through these two channels, and these two channels are incredibly adapted to the job. Don't want to go into any details, but here they are. And our job in this medium that we're working into here today is to insert things into those canals that are going to give a vivid experience, and even one that we can fictionalize and make all sorts of stories in. So I'm going to show you something that looks like earbuds, but ever forward from now, you're going to wonder if the things that someone has in their ears actually are earbuds, because these are not. These are microphones. If I place them like this and plug into an audio recorder, you probably think I'm just jogging and listening to some playback. Actually, I'm recording. So it's not just a stealth thing. It's not I'm being wired so I can keep an eye on you or an ear on you. This is an amazing way to record sound because it captures the patterns of the handkerchiefs right at the ear canals. And when you play this back to earbuds or headphones, you get an incredibly strong 3D experience of sound. So this is the one takeaway from my talk. If you haven't heard binaural recording, and if you don't get a chance just now, I highly recommend it. Now, onto how sound interacts with narrative. I'm going to play you a recording of a little research I did on Friday. And this is also a good audio test, but this is 8 seconds long.
Yeah!
Okay, so it says river, but you don't really have a lot of information about why all the whooping. This is why all the whooping. Okay, so the first question I would have is, where was the microphone? And hopefully that's ambiguous at this point. Play it again, but this time with sound.
Yeah!
And I'm not going to answer the question. So was that a wet microphone or somehow otherwise compromised in this? The reason that you don't know exactly where that microphone is because it doesn't capture all of the cues that you're going to want to have in order to get a fully immersive, I guess that's a pun, type of experience here. The two cues that are super significant for binaural are the time difference between the two ears. And it's easy to describe. So in fact, I always do this with classes, and I have to get away from a microphone to do it. I want you to close your eyes, and I'll just do it sort of clapping, I guess. Hopefully this microphone won't wreck it. But close your eyes and listen to me clap here. Okay, now keep them closed, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it again. The second time I moved, you can open your eyes now, and you may or may not have picked up on a motion from here to here. And it's incredibly revealing how precise our ears are, because someone who's, let's say, in the back, and is getting the time difference between here and here is resolving stuff on microsecond level. So the arrival time at one ear, the other ear, has just shifted ever so slightly from my change. It's a little less dramatic in a room that's so echoey and one that has a PA system going. But you can try it for yourself. And we're, frontally, we're good to about 1 degree of azimuth in just noticeable difference. That translates into the most exquisite sense of time delay that we have in our body. Again, it's on the microseconds level. We also get an effect of the level difference between the two ears too, and that's particularly pronounced if it's coming from one side, so that the other side's in a shadow. You'll get a change of level, and it's comparisons of these things, which are extremely automatic for us, that give us a sense of spatial location. So those are cues, and there are other cues too. But in that kayak example, you still don't have a strong sense of where the microphone was relative to the shot. And there's going to be so much other stuff that can overload the cues, especially when they're poorly recorded, like they were in this, this thing we did on the river on Friday. Here's the real thing.
Yeah! And then take a right. Wow.
So hopefully now it's clear where the sound was being picked up, because it's in the other boat, and I didn't reveal that for you at the beginning. So I could play some games with that. I was able to probably create some ambiguity, stuff that you might not want to employ in a fictional account of going down that river, or maybe you would. Who knows? It might be useful. But our problem is that the camera recording was just feeble compared to what the ears can do, and we can improve on it. But we can also, kind of mess around, with context. And this is a way of looking at the origin in a narrative. And I just played games shifting your mind in that way. So I gave you possibly the impression that the sound was coming from me and the upstream kayak, rather than the sound coming from the downstream photographing kayak. So these shifts of center are totally possible with sound, but you may or may not overload them with other context. So binaural recording itself, the two microphones that I just showed you, and you insert in your ears, that would be equivalent to this diagram on the left side. There's a head, It has 2 binaural microphones. There's some sort of memory device that can play that recording back to the listener that's got headphones on. And there may or may not be signal processing. It might just be a straight wire there. So it's now time to actually hear this as it's meant to be heard. One of the most sort of experimental versions of this happened in '78 with the BBC. And I love this as an example. So I'm going to invite...
the play you're about to hear, The Revenge, is an experiment in terms of sound. It's a play written for radio without
I'm going to let this go, and I'm going to give you some instructions.
And to achieve the full effect of binaural stereo,
so if you have a device, go to this URL.
Play in ordinary stereo through speakers and indeed in mono, but it's important that you listen at the correct level, and if you're listening in stereo, that your speakers are correctly balanced. Now, I have with me Ronald Mason, head of drama radio, and Andrew Sachs, author and principal character of The Revenge. We're going to talk for a few minutes about the idea of doing a play without
and you'll find a
our
simple web page like this,
so that you can listen under the best possible circumstances. Now, first is Ronald Mason, and he's going to explain something about the history behind this play without dialogue.
Well, oddly enough, it originated from an interview with...
So has anybody got this up yet, this page? Great. So you want to click on The Revenge and put in your earbuds if you've got them and close your eyes.
I was talking about radio drama and suggested that it ought to be possible to write a play with more sound effects than dialogue, where the sound of the things that were happening became the dominant narrative thread. He then went on to suggest even more that it ought to be possible to...
I've got a few people tuned in that I can see.
Whatsoever.
And I'm just going to let it run now. And if you've got it going, you can listen to that rather than me. If you don't have the setup, which the majority don't have it, so I'll keep talking. But I would encourage you to go back to that site if you can after and actually fast forward past the introductory dialogue, the narration, and go to about 5 minutes in, and you're going to hear a thrill ride of sound effects in binaural. It's fantastic. I think somebody had a question? Yeah. Oh, you want to see it again? Yeah. Sorry. There you go. I heard the siren. Yes. Yeah, and he will come out. There's another person in the interview who comes out in the other ear. But if you fast forward the track to about 5 minutes, then you're well into the radio play itself, and it's very immersive. So it's something you can play with, beyond this talk, hopefully. We've got a few takers. This is the first time I've ever tried to have an audience on earbuds. This is kind of fun. It's sort of working about 30%. Anyway, thanks for trying. And I'm going to go through a few other examples. These are all mentioned in the list here, and they all have slightly different things to offer to the talk here. So Janet Cardiff is a sound artist who began doing binaural sound walks as early as 1996, I believe. So 20 years worth of practice in things like this one. And if you're on your mobile, you can now switch to the other second in the list of links, and this would be Janet's piece called Alter Bahnhof.
I'm sitting here right now with you in the train station in Kassel, watching people pass by. It's very intimate in ways, watching people. You can see how they walk, so you can tell if they're happy or sad or lost somewhere in their minds.
Short digression to a forest right there.
This video will be an experiment. We're like those prisoners stuck in Plato's cave. We watch the flickering shadows on the screen. Try to align your movements with mine. Move your screen up to the left as I do. A red coat. I used to have one. Wonder where it went. So many people wear black here. Garbage pails have moved. Do you see the musicians? They're between the pillars now. Let's get up. Follow them. And turn to the right.
So if you were listening to that properly, then you're in this very resonant train station, and if you close your eyes, which you shouldn't in this one, but if you were to, you would lose the sense of the room that you're in. You would be sort of teleported to the train station in Kassel. But you keep your eyes open because she's actually doing some very interesting ambiguity and illusions with what's in the video on the iPod. And this is part of her practice. The next one is very recent. This is a demonstration of Omnitone, a system for real-time binaural listening on mobile devices in particular. And those who are equipped, go for it. The rest of us will hear it on these stereo loudspeakers, and it really is not the same thing.
And to you I was the gold you saw at the bottom of the stream. You were content and knowing it was there and always.
So this will give you the flavor of it. It appears in a browser. The browser is able to be manipulated with the cursor to turn the camera. And it's being actually computed in real time. All of this 3D stuff for the binaural is running in the browser in JavaScript, which is an amazing accomplishment, but now commonplace as of a few months ago, I guess. And the technique, it's called ambisonics. We may not have time to get into ambisonics. If we do, I hope I'll give you a brief snippet. But YouTube adopted ambisonics as one of its audio formats within the past year, meaning you can put on your binaural or your earbuds, go to Omnitone demos like this, and it's interactive, and it's immersive in this 3D sense. The last of the examples is another. This is from Google also. And one of our students at Karma, who's a composer in the Pollen Music Group, wrote about producing this. It's a wonderful first paragraph if you take a second to read it, because I think this says everything about what I'm trying to communicate. So basically, JJ says it, and I'll echo JJ's thoughts here with something from my father Wallace Chafe's 1994 book, just after this example. So go ahead and click on Pearl if you're ready for it, and if you do, you can move your device around and look around inside the world. And I just sort of faked it here on the slide deck. That works? Great. I thought I had glass. Oh yeah, she pulls in a firefly. Right.
Wow.
Okay, September 4th, take 2. No long way home.
I hope your dream
It worked.
don't feel small. And when the wind begins to rise, I hope your mast stands straight and tall. These are fragile times, we blur the lines. In the unlikeliest of places, we all find a little grace. There's no wrong way home.
Okay, and as I said, I sort of faked this up for the slide deck. There's timing inconsistencies between the audio and the video and so on, but you get the flavor. But definitely go check it out when you have a chance with earbuds on. So the point of this last bit is that in language and in storytelling, in narrative, in fiction, we do a lot of things that we almost take for granted. And I'd like to point out that we have all of that available in these new media that we're writing and composing for. And there are so many parallels that, you know, when I go back to this book that my father wrote over 20 years ago, I find that I'm more and more sort of concerned with exactly what he was writing about. He's a linguist, works in psychology and linguistics, kind of the marriage of the two. And you know, there's just some principles that, you know, I guess 20 years ago I would be at dinner with Dad and thinking, hey, that's cool what you're working on. Now it's like super intense for me. And what is particularly important here is this last slide, I think, that we can divide our use of sound between two kinds of workings, you know, self-consciousnesses, I guess. One being extroverted and one being introverted. And that all of that plays into how we use our technology for this. Great. I wonder if that might not be this one, though. So you can look further. Here's the first slide I showed of binaural recording was from Jens Blauert's sort of keynote lecture on the future of 3D audio, which he wrote in 2003. And it's still super germane today. I think he was being very, very prognosticative, if that's a word, when he wrote this diagram. But I could point to examples of everything in that diagram. Here we are, 2016. And you'll notice the punchline is at the bottom. It's two transducers, one for each ear. We don't always do it that way. Here are two individuals surrounded by many more than two transducers over in the Bing studio. So we do a lot of concerts at Stanford using massive arrays of loudspeakers around the room like this. And that's this ambisonic world, which I'm going to now beg off on and close my talk. But if you'd like to hear more about ambisonics, come to a concert at Karma, the Stanford Computer Music Group. Often we will have a way to project this immersive feeling to our audience. At least that's the goal. And it sure sells a lot of loudspeakers these days, you know. So thank you for listening.